Item A, fiscal year 22-23 superintendent evaluation. Is there a motion?
Move we accept the evaluation for this year, 22-23.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the superintendent's evaluation? Seeing none, we'll vote on the accepting the evaluation.
Motion carries 5-0.
With that having happened, I did not want to talk about specifics of the evaluation, but I need to make a motion to, I'm making a motion to terminate the superintendent's contract as of May 31st of 2023 and asking Mr. Leonard to step in as an interim superintendent until we could go through a process to recruit. I have a motion. I've made the motion.
I'll second.
Have motion and second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. I would like to nominate Dr. Michael Roberts.
Well, we have,
There's been a motion and a second.
Okay.
There would need to be an amendment.
motion is made and seconded. Yes, Ms. Hightower.
I realized that the evaluations showed there were various areas that Superintendent Smith needs some improvement in. I had a very good conversation with him as we discussed the evaluation. I believe that it is, as we do with our own staff, when you identify areas of need for improvement, we put a plan together to determine how we would evaluate whether those improvements were made. At this time, I am not able to support your motion. I believe that Superintendent Smith is leading the district. He is working to improve our student performance. I know that all of us may not operate our leadership skills in the same way. I know we've heard from public about they think that the superintendent should have just unilaterally just thrown all the books out. We, the board, as was pointed out to us, have that as our responsibility, not the superintendent. And I think that as we move forward, I would hope that your plan B, the things that we've discussed in our evaluation, will make us better tomorrow. I believe that Dr. Smith has looked at our district and he has determined where our weaknesses are. And he is putting things in place to hopefully grow those weaknesses into strengths. With all of the turmoil that was created through this Warrington issue, all of the turmoil, and I know we've heard people state that what's happening in our legislature is exactly what needs to happen, but there are things that have been put in place to start July 1 that are going to cause turmoil in our district. we're going to have to help our teachers understand the implications of the legislation that has been passed. We're going to have to fight through our budgetary issues. And I believe that having someone in place who has been working in those areas is important at this particular juncture.
Mr. Adams?
Yeah, this is tough. I was apartment fence for 38 years, and if we didn't get somebody straightened out pretty soon, we moved on, okay? And one of my problems I have been preaching to him is in my evals, and it started back with that when we first started negotiating. I asked him to either put me or Paul Fesco in those meetings on that negotiations. I attended the invite from Senator Broxton to come there with the stakeholders and everything, and all the other people in there. And he was told to pass down information to each board members, and I made a comment at that meeting, I can't talk to the other board members to let them know this stuff. It did not take me long when we had the next meeting to figure out none of y'all had a clue to what we were getting ready to talk to at that meeting. So his problem of communicating with the board, plus, like this book situation we're on, I call the employee in and say, let me know, can you comply with this law, or your personal feelings are getting in the way? If so, then I'll get somebody else in there, because we got to comply with law. Instead of figuring out about somebody kissing on the cheek or whatever, we know what books has got to be out of there. The situation at Bellevue Elementary School. We've had assistant principal on paid leave for 5 months. I don't have assistant principal there, okay? And I told the superintendent it could have been fixed very easy by calling that person in the office and saying, hey, I know you disagree with my decision. If it bothers you too bad, I can move you off to another school. We had a teacher that was threatened that she could lose her teaching certificate because she spoke out, where I've got teachers at Bellevue Elementary everywhere, at Beulah, all the other different schools, I know y'all do too, that needs teachers, okay? It could have been fixed with a simple visit to that school by a superintendent, talk to the employee, so it just keeps going. And I don't know if this school, we got huge problems coming down the pipeline. Whether he can execute on them, and we're still dealing with all this other issues, that it just keeps bleeding on us. And that's my concern. From what I've witnessed as a chair, now Paul's witnessed it, well, he's a chair, is whether he's going to be communicating with staff. One thing I told him is, you're in a meeting with DOE, and they got all their staff people, you should have your knights at the round table in there with you, okay? You don't go into some situation by yourself. We had another meeting with Senator Broxton. He forgot about the meeting, and I was the only person there for the district with the chancellor and everybody else. So I like Superintendent Smith. He's the nicest guy I ever met. But I love my kids, and I love my teachers, and I love everybody else, and we need to get out of this little mess we've been in, all these little dramas. So that's where I am right now. We need to stabilize the school district and get it back a little bit, because we got big problems anyway besides that. But we surely got to get some sense of normalcy back in the school district. But anyway, I don't want to give you my take on it.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, I withdraw my last statement.
Thank you. All right.
I'll just withdraw it.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Superintendent? Mr. Slayton?
I'm just remarkable that you would throw the district into this type of turmoil at this particular time. We have a lot of experts that want to act like they know how to run a school district. You participated in the hiring You participated in the research to pick one. But the people sitting out here that work for us, that's where the turmoil's going to be. You don't know exactly how this is going to affect it. I've lived through 9 superintendents. Nothing has ever been smooth. Nothing has ever, every time we change, we have turmoil in the district. We have change of leadership. We have things that change. This is no time to be doing this. I'm sorry. This is wrong. It's a surprise at the last minute. I'm very disappointed. I almost want to say there's been a sunshine law violation. That there's got to have been a discussion on this. So no, I certainly can't support it. I can't support it for the administrators, the teachers, the students in Escambia County. It's the wrong time, wrong way to do this.
Just one more statement, and I hear you, Mr. Slayton, but I've taken a pulse of the county and leadership, and we need something. And like I said, I told Dr. Smith I'd be extremely fair with him, and I told him he's in a tough position. Anybody that came behind somebody that was there for 12 years, it would be a tough transition. And then we have a lot of issues. But our district is hurting. And if you would interview a lot of the administrators, they're hurting. Teachers, they're hurting. Nothing personal against Dr. Smith. I think he's a great educator. But we're losing administrators, we're losing teachers, we're losing students. And it's just anybody would be in a tough situation right now, being superintendent. And if we really care as a board, then we do what we think is best. It's tough to make that decision. If you're accusing me of sunshine law, I don't speak to any of you. And I don't talk to any of you outside of being in this room. So not on my part. There's no sunshine law, a violation.
And no sunshine law on my part either. The closing statement the superintendent and I had when we did the one-on-one evaluation, he said, was I going to move to terminate the contract? And I said, yes. But I didn't tell you that, or I didn't tell anybody else that. And I didn't need to. And I don't want to go into details. I said to the superintendent, I didn't write everything on that evaluation because I respect him as a person, as an educator, and there are things that I could have put 2 pages of things that notes that I had, and I don't want to disparage the superintendent. His strengths, in my opinion, are his ability to look at what's happening instructionally in the classroom with the rounding and walking and knowing what expectations are for instruction. That's the strengths. Communication, unsatisfactory, just about everything. The efforts with this Renaissance Charter agreement have been horrendous. And there's other things, the pulse of the principals, other people, staff, there is no feeling of that they're being led. It's uncomfortable. I can't believe the number of principals that we have lost, people who are going out without even going into drop. I care about this school district. I voted for the superintendent when he came in. I do not believe I do not believe it's in our best interest to continue with him in that position going forward. Now, I'll just leave it at that. Superintendent.
So, Mr. Fetzko, to be clear, when we had our conversation, I was talking about the expiration of the contract that happens next summer, not now. But that doesn't matter. You've made your statement. certainly, we've had some difficulties. Tighten your seatbelts, because here it comes. So let's talk about Charter Schools USA. Mr. Fetzko, you've been a thorn in the side the whole time, because you haven't been, you were meeting with people, my understanding, at Warrington Middle School to devise another charter. Is that correct?
No, sir, it's not.
Okay.
No, I
Well,
had
stand
somebody at
corrected.
Warrington Middle School come to me to ask me on how you apply for a charter, and I directed that person to the alternative ed department to say, this is where you get this information, this is what a charter application is. I didn't meet with them to do anything different. I answered questions as I would for anybody here.
Fair enough. I think through this entire process, where we've been on shaky ground is some of your statements that have made have impacted the trust factor from Charter Schools USA. That's my view of it. I think we've had, but as we've spoken, I'm the superintendent, so I am responsible for it all. I am, however, not responsible for you. There's been a correlation between you and Mr. Adams. Think about when a lot of this chaotic, these situations happened. Who were the chairmen? But yet we don't take responsibility. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's my fault. There's a pattern here. Some people are just dividers. You have been divisive. Both of you have been out. It started in the fall. It continued in February. You've been plotting, evidently, behind the scenes. You've got people who come and speak. We can go after example after example. The books. Mr. Adams, you sat in that chair and led this board through a process to come up with a policy. We had a conversation with General Counsel. Can the superintendent take the books? I don't like the books. As a high school principal, I'd go pull that book. General Counsel said, I would not recommend that because that's not in the intent of the law. But you hammer away, oh, the superintendent should pull these books. Why? Because you don't want to deal with it. You get the emails, you get the phone calls, you get the chaos. But yeah, it's easy to throw the superintendent under the bus. It's your policy that you led. And you're asking me to violate your policy. What is that? Mr. Fetzko, the other day, I believe you said some laws need to be violated. Because you said the same thing. You wanted me to pull the books. Don't slippery out of this. I don't want to hear it. Don't slippery out of this.
Fine.
I don't need to spin. Yeah, that's true. There's the door, too. Yeah, you have your own issues.
Sir, we don't need to, this is between the superintendent and the board, thank you.
Yeah. Communication, our communication patterns really haven't changed since last year. Same practices. But I'll take your note. Certainly not perfect. Certainly have room to grow. Don't deny that. My own self-evaluation, I marked myself as an unsatisfactory in one of the areas. Don't disagree with that. But your divisiveness, I'm telling you, there's something bad that exists here. There's something toxic that exists here. You all want to fire me. I think the answer would be for the two of you to resign your positions, really. What's the difference? Is it you or me, right? I guess you outnumber me. if you care about the kids, as you have said, we need to do things right. But to undermine and constantly seek to get me out, one of the things that is very troubling, we live in a time where there is divisiveness. Do you ever wonder why the mental health needs of our kindergartners and our first graders has spiked? You don't wonder about that because you don't know that probably. I've spoken to the principals who you've implied don't feel I lead them. I'm going to disagree with you on that. Because I've been out in the schools. I've talked with the principals. I know what's going on in the schools. But do you know why mental health has spiked? For kindergartners, first graders, second graders. That's anecdotal because I talk with the principals. I don't have the answer. But I don't think a divided society where we hide behind our computer screens and we judge everybody and we speak words of condemnation left and right is very healthy. There's a lot of toxic stuff going on. How much poison has dripped on that podium over the past 6 months? It's been extensive. It's been ridiculous, actually. We're about kids. And I'm going to tell you this. I thought it was a miracle. I'm going to tell you, I watched when I was selected. I watched the process, and I'm going to tell you, I thought it was a miracle. Because I didn't think I was going to be selected as the process was progressing. But then it happened. And I really feel that I was called to be here. Now, I don't know how long I was supposed to be called here. Obviously not too long. But as I walk out, well, if this vote goes the way it appears it's going to go, I will hold my head up high because I have invested. My wife has been an amazing, loyal individual and sacrificed. Gave up her dream job in Orlando to do this. And at least I can put my head on the pillow that I said I put everything I could into it. I fear for the future of this district. And I'm just going to say it. I don't think this board, I think both of us, if you were to look at ratings on how our community perceives us, me and you, it's not very good. There are problems. But the research says if we're not united, this school district will not move forward. And I've said that before on this dais. So I guess this is my swan song, but the one thing I do want to say is I'm appreciative of the employees of this district. I'm appreciative of our administrators. I'm appreciative of our executive staff, our deputy, of our executive assistant. There's been some stellar people who have been loyal and supportive. And I don't mean to get into the blame game, but I do think you both have been very divisive. And I think that There's a correlation here. Maybe it's me, maybe it's you, but there's a correlation. You're in this too. You wear it on your shoulders just as much as I do. And I know you're going to be happy the day I walk out. You've made that perfectly clear. I wish the school district well. It's a good school district. Has problems, has challenges. We have an attendance issue. We have challenges with poverty. We have kids who are hurting. I'd like to think that there's a bright future ahead, but I think there's maybe some bumps along the way to get there. So I appreciate the opportunity over the past 2.5 years. I wish I had not disappointed you. Gave it my best. Thank those of you who have been supportive. Thank you very much. Appreciate your leadership. And I wish you well. I hope I'm wrong on some accounts, and I wish you the very best.
Any other discussion? Holly, did you get? Hi, Tyra.
I guess you've had conversations with Mr. Leonard? Does it seem like that would be an appropriate thing to find out? You've put him in here as the interim superintendent.
Well, I did that because he was a finalist in the last search. He worked at the district level for a long time.
Would you consider an amendment to take that out and have another meeting to discuss who the interim might be?
You made the motion.
Right, I would not want to do that at this time. I would want to have something in place so that we'll know what's going on.
Though it's not going to be the feelings of the entire board.
It wasn't when we voted the first time.
You have to vote that way.
I didn't. But I did. I'd made the comment that from the very beginning of our search, Dr. Smith was one of the candidates who was there at the top for me from the very beginning. I said one of the candidates. Go ahead and vote.
So I've never been fired before. What do I do, leave?
No, you're still there till May 31st.
If I were you, I would.
Yeah.
But you are here until the 31st.
Unless you choose otherwise, sir, but I thought that, never mind, I thought. We still have items left on the agenda. Disciplinary reassignments. First item A, disciplinary reassignment. Mr. Superintendent, what's your recommendation?
Move the superintendent's recommendations.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? None, please vote. Next, item B, formal hearing requests and recommended orders. What's your recommendation, or is there a motion?